Good afternoon. Welcome to Project Review Committee. My name is Oscar Cepeda. I am the chairperson for Project Review Committee. I'm going to go ahead and start today's meeting at 1:37 p.m. Welcome. First off, I'm going to go ahead and do roll call here for city staff. Again, myself, Oscar Cepeda, the chairperson for PRC, and also the associate planner within the planning division. Claudia Calderon also joins us as our community development director and zoning administrator. Jeff O'Neill joins us as our city planner. In addition, Rocio Mejia joins us as our assistant planner, as well as Garrett Keller as our planning technician. From the engineering division, we're joined by Javier Sanchez, our engineering and project management director. From the fire department, we're joined by Clayton Dignam, our fire marshal. With the building division, we're joined by James Wickersham, our chief building official. Public Works. I don't see anybody from Public Works. And I believe that it's going to be all for city staff at this time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open oral communications. This is the opportunity for public members to address the committee on any matter related to project review. Okay, hearing no comments here in person, are there any public members joining us online that would like to address the committee on any matter related to project review?
So is that me, the only one that's doing this, or are there other applicants?
No, we have three items for today's agenda. Again, this is just an opportunity for any members of the public that would like to address the committee pertaining to maybe any items on the agenda. So yeah, hearing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close oral communications. As stated, we do have three items on the agenda today. So let's start off with the first one, which is PRC 2025-025, which is the Mencilla parcel map. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Oops. Of the preliminary map. Okay. So the applicant is proposing a residential parcel map dividing the existing parcel into 4 total lots. The property is located at 1490 West North Grand Avenue. The property is zoned very low density residential and has a general plan land use of low density residential. As far as comments from planning, the project would have to meet our minimum standards outlined in the Porterville Development Ordinance related to the lot configuration as far as dimensions. So on this preliminary map, it does look like it meets our minimum standards. Any future development within those proposed parcels would have to comply with our residential district's development standards. As far as the land division, it will require to process a tentative parcel map. And to finalize that process, it will go through a final map. As far as fees associated with the process, there is a tentative parcel map fee of $1,500. It will require an environmental evaluation, which staff can make the preliminary determination for an exemption. There is a $79 fee for staff to prepare a notice of exemption. There will be a county filing fee for that document to be filed with the Tulare County office, and that fee is $58, which is made payable to the Tulare County clerk. It will require a parcel map committee, which is a public hearing, and we will need to notice the adjacent properties within 300 feet radius of the item. The city does offer this service for $26.50, which is optional. Um, as far as the final map, it shall comply with section 40501 of the Porterville Development Ordinance. The final map fee is $955. And that is pretty much all comments from planning. Does the applicant have any questions at this time for the planning department?
So the initial fee was 1,500,
$1,500, correct.
and then there's a Tulare County $58 fee to the clerk.
Correct, and then the environmental fee for an exemption of $79. And there's also a $26.50 fee for a noticing map and labels, which the city can provide that service. And we will provide those details in a letter to the applicant outlining the information.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we'll move along with our fire department with Clayton.
The fire department doesn't have any comments relative to the lot split. Our comments will come when the properties are developed.
Thank you. Next, with our engineering department with Javier.
Right. Yeah, thanks, officer. As far as the lot split, is the plan just to, well, there's the ultimate plan.
That one and this one, which are similar.
All right. Just let me see if is that existing home already connected to city services, water and sewer?
The main home is a well. We do have city sewer.
Hmm. Okay. See. Because what's the total? What's 39? So I'm just looking at the utilities there in the area. There is both water and sewer in West North Grand and also Boyle Street. So it would require connections at each of those at the time of development. But since the existing home on off of North Grand is already existing, a condition of the parcel map would be that one would have to connect to city water because wells are only allowed within the city if it's a 5-acre parcel minimum size.
But being that it wouldn't be grandfathered in.
No, it's existed now just because you've had it this amount of time, but anytime you're trying to split up land or develop a project, that 5-acre rule comes into play. So unfortunately, that would be one requirement of the project is that the well would have to go away. And then all the other lots on Boyles would just connect to city and water when they develop.
Got it.
And similarly, the frontage improvements, all the curb gutter and sidewalk on North Grand's put in. So that's that. On the Boyle side, it would just be public improvements required at the time of those lots developing.
Correct.
Which again would be curb gutter, sidewalk. There may be a need on, there would be a need on this road section that again at time of development, street lights would have to go in. That's pretty much it for engineering.
Thank you, Javier.
Mhm.
Next with building.
No comment.
Thank you, James. That's all the comments from staff at this time, related to the, project being presented. As stated, we will compile each department's comments in a letter and will be sent out to the applicant in about 2 weeks' timeframe from today's, meeting. Does the applicant have any additional questions at this time?
No, I think we're good.
Sounds good. Isaac, thank you for the application. If you want to stick around and hear the other items, you can. And with that, we'll just go ahead and move along with our second item for today's agenda, which is PRC 2025-026. Gilbert, if you want to join us at the table? Good afternoon.
You guys have a great day. I'm gonna get off.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks, bye.
Yes, so for the second item on today's agenda, we do have the applicant submitted a project under the SB 330 application process consisting of 2 multifamily residential buildings with a total of 27 units to be located at 1310 West Olive Avenue. The applicant is proposing a land division to separate this area from the rest of the property. In order to facilitate its operation, the property is zoned retail centers and has a general plan land use designation of retail centers. Similarly to the previous project, in relation to the land division, it will require to go through the process of submitting a tentative map. The fee for that is $1,500. There's also the environmental fee of $79. We'll take a look at that to see if we could find an exemption for the project, and then we'll outline that in the letter.
Or CEQA exemption.
Or CEQA, yes. Or are you able to make a comment on that right now, Jeff? For an exemption?
It's possible that it could fall under. It's possible that it could fall under exemptions that it might not otherwise fall under, because certain of them require compliance or consistency with zoning in the general plan. But because it's an SB 330
Yeah,
proposal, it's kind of like a de facto consistency finding. So nothing is jumping out at me to say this can't be exempt. if I can
Okay.
put it that way. But there are a couple of different ones that it might work under, so we'll take a look at that.
okay. So yeah, so we'll just provide those details in the letter. So yeah, so we have the tentative map and also we have final map process, and that has a fee of $955. But in relation to the development itself, we're gonna be looking at development standards for high density residential districts. Right, my understanding is the project is gonna be an affordable housing project.
Not quite sure that yet.
Okay,
Yeah, we still need to figure that out.
sounds good. But as far as development, making sure we meet our standards outlined in our portable development ordinance. There is a comment related to the location of building A. Our standards do require for the parking to be behind of the building itself. So if there's a way that we could push the building up towards Toma Avenue, that way the parking could be either on the sides or behind the building, as that is a requirement for our multifamily projects for the parking lot to be between the street and the building itself. Of course, there is concessions and incentives that the applicant can apply for under an affordable housing project.
Oscar. Yeah. I wanted to add, I know that Public Works isn't here, but they did mention that it's right on the edge of like a water line on the eastern boundary.
There's a water line that's gonna run underneath one of the buildings.
Oh,
It's
So-
gonna
let me
facilitate
pull
having-
that up. Oh, here it is.
So they were suggesting to move it to the west, right?
north and west would possibly be best.
That's, and I believe this is the one that they're referencing here.
so is there an easement across there then?
Javier, are you able to speak on that at this time?
Hmm. Shoot, I can't recall. I know we worked with the town and country owners some years ago about backflow prevention.
Michael.
Let me look at the street view. I think we had them put in the, well, it's shown on GIS as our line, right? But I think we're trying to get that isolated and so it's all private.
The basement, it'll show the.
Let's see.
And then Michael Knight, our Public Works Director, just joining us.
Yeah, so Mike, we're just discussing this water line. Did we have them isolate with backflow preventers or is that still all city line?
You know, it's a good question. I believe it's still being operated as part of the city system. Currently, I know that we isolate that during their fire flow tests or fire inspections. But that is not currently isolated with the backflow preventer on site.
Okay, so it's approximately just along the east side of that empty, undeveloped land right there, approximately.
Yeah,
So-
should you be just off the curb line into the driveway a little bit? Yeah.
Okay, is there a I guess if there is an easement, just trying to find out what the separation distance is from that line to the buildings or any improvements?
Try to find out what they are or what the
What the distance?
needed setback.
Mhm.
Yeah, it definitely can't be within within the footing, right? So I believe I want to say the last discussion we had with the Pincus Arena was where we approached something similar to this, right, Javier? Where
Right.
15 feet had to be 15 feet off of improvements, like it couldn't run under the sidewalk or the building footings. It would have to be like 15 feet off.
So horizontal construction is okay, but not vertical. Parking, sidewalks are okay.
I'll have to look into that and get that comment back to you. Really kind of need to see where it falls within the site plan and what's constructed over it.
Sure.
It'll be in this area, right?
Actually, it's just to the right of the building outline.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. And we have room to move the buildings to the left. Depending on fire also, we have 30 feet. We could reduce that to 5 feet if we need to.
Sounds good. Now just finish off on planning's comments. You know, we do have our landscaping standards outlined in section 303. Make sure we comply with that. Making sure we meet with our minimum parking requirements for the project. It will require each unit to have at least one covered parking stall and that stall to be designated for that unit. You are allowed signage for your project. Minimum one building mounted sign and one monument sign. Not exceeding a cumulative sign area of 32 square feet. I don't see any trash enclosures here, but it will require at least some sort of refuse area. Any fencing complying with section 300.03. Making sure all utilities, which include electrical, telephone, cable, TV, similar distribution lines providing direct service to development sites shall be installed underground within the site. And that's our preliminary comments from planning. Next, Javier, do you have any other comments on the project?
Just that the frontage improvements on Toma would need to be completed. And if whether or not you've taken into account that that drive approach would have to get shifted with a realignment of the drive getting pushed to the east. I know that thing. So that one goes away, yeah. And what we'd be recommending is that the whole front 5 feet be taken out for and then landscaping put in to comply with our new standard. And then just this offset sidewalk, but that drive approach, that main one into the backside of that complex, that east ramp would have to, well, it's I'd have to measure the distance, but in essence, you'd have to shift the whole drive to the east, which I
Is
know
there,
that was substantial because that was all, 8-inch thick rebarred drive approach.
is there a minimum drive approach width that we need to maintain?
Minimum would be probably at least 24 for two-way.
Okay.
But again, with it being kind of a major, let me see what these front ones look like. Looks like these smaller ones on Olive are 30 feet. Yeah, 30. So again, to be consistent, probably 30, and also just to take into account there's delivery trucks going through there and stuff.
Sure.
And it'd probably be a good size to maintain. Right now it's 40.
Sounds
But besides that, let me see. That would be all of engineer's comments.
Thank you, Javier.
Mhm.
Next with Clayton with our fire department.
So the project shall comply with the latest applicable codes. Fire hydrants shall be placed based on distance and required fire flow. No greater spacing than 300 feet for multifamily residential applications. Where 2 or more hydrants are required for a project, fire hydrants shall be on a looped system. Depending on the location of existing hydrants and the required fire flow, additional hydrants may be required. All hydrant locations shall be approved by the fire department. Fire hydrants located across a public street shall not be utilized for calculations or considered as available to meet the fire flow and/or FDC connection requirements for this project. No structure shall be greater than 400 feet from a fire hydrant. All hydrants must be in place and accepted by the fire department prior to any combustibles being brought onto site. These are standard comments. There's hydrants there, but it's probably going to require an additional 1 or 2 potentially. So moving on, project to meet the minimum fire flow requirements per the table in Appendix B of the 2022 California Fire Code. Fire sprinkler plans and calculations required. Underground plans shall be submitted with above ground plans. Fire alarm monitoring plans required. The fire department connection shall be within 50 feet of a fire hydrant in an approved location. Where site conditions permit, the FDC is to be located no closer than 40 feet from the building. Maintain 2 entry exit points, which you have, the minimum 20-foot roadways for fire department access around. Fire extinguishers, address numbers, and it's not going to be gated or anything like that? No, okay. And we don't need Knox access.
Yep.
So. Any questions?
Minimum turn radius is about 35 feet inside, more or less.
Currently, the fire code has a 28-foot radius for the turn, but we are getting a new piece of equipment. And so I am waiting to get the new turn radius for that so that I can amend the code to meet whatever is most restrictive, because we're getting a tiller.
Oh, okay.
So
Would it be like,
they're more maneuverable, but if the back axle is locked, then it needs a wider turn radius.
got it. Okay, so right now it's about 25, 28.
28, yeah, 28 right now is what's in the fire code in Appendix D.
Sir?
Thank you. Next with building with James.
No, no comments during PRC. Any comments related would be during review.
Thank you, James. Any additional comments, Mike?
Just rough calculation on the enclosures. I think the city would look to see three bin trash enclosures for this project. Just on the estimated service for the number of units. And then just the backflow preventers for the facility. And we'll get back to you on what the spacing looks like on the minimum distance to the water main from the construction and improvements. This, along the lines with this shopping center, it is a older shopping center. Majority with all the other shopping centers throughout the town, they are separated from a backflow preventer at the curb line. And that does become a kind of a private service line for the facility. So this is something that we haven't dealt with in a number of years. So we'll just need to get those comments back to you on what the impacts are of the proximity of that existing main in that drive aisle.
Sure.
But no further comments for me.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, I take that back. One other comment. So along with the backflow preventers and the water service, it'll need to have a dedicated landscape meter and domestic meter for the facility. So if you're doing multiple meters for units or one master meter for all units, the project will require separate landscape meters for the development.
Good.
Just making sure to get that statement out.
Thank you, Mike. That's all the comments today from the departments. You will receive each department's comments on the letter in about 2 weeks timeframe from today's meeting. Does the applicant have any questions at this time for staff?
Solar panel requirements and electric vehicle charging station requirements.
That'll be Javier or James?
Yes, on both.
Good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, unless there's not any other questions, we'll be keep an eye out for that letter. And then I will just add another comment. If the application doesn't move forward under the SB 330, we will provide information related to possibility of zone change and general plan amendments, because as is, the project wouldn't be able to proceed unless there's an amendment.
Sure. Clarification question on the SB 330. Was that 100% affordable housing, or is there, I can't remember if there was a minimum requirement.
It's 100%. That's
I believe it is 100%, but Jeff, if you're able to answer that question for us.
It's something about depending on the level of affordability,
Yeah.
different.
The level of affordability, the percentage of affordability varies based on the percentage of units that are made available to the various income categories.
That law is called the builder's remedy.
Uh-huh.
The one you would be using, so there, we can
It allow-
provide more detail in the letter, but if you want to look it up as well.
Okay.
Just in the meantime,
I'm
Just for the immediate discussion, it's 20% of the units sold or rented to lower income households. Or 100% to moderate or middle income households.
And does it, I can look this up, but just curious. What is the AMI for definement for lower income and moderate?
Moderate is 80 to 120%.
And low,
Lower would be anything below 80%.
is there a minimum?
Do you want the AMI number?
I can look it up if.
Okay, it's something higher than you would think it is.
Okay, awesome.
It's I want to say that for Tulare County, because the state comes up with extremely generic categories for the various counties. And it's not an actual number, it's just a number they picked. If I can, I mean, it's like almost an arbitrary, it's like $80,000, 80 some odd thousand. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head. So, and it's the same in Tulare County as it is in Fresno County and Kings County and.
Oh, I see. So the AMI, they use the same AMI for region?
Yeah, I mean, they still define it or describe it by county. But if you were to look at it, most of the counties that are within any particular region have the same number.
Got it. Okay, very good.
Right, sounds good.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Gilbert. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, moving along here. With our next item on the agenda, which is. PRC 2025-028. We're calling it the Yates triplex. Located at 190 East Yates. Want to join us at the table? Thank you. All right, so we have PRC 2025-20, I'm sorry, PRC 2025-28. The applicant is proposing a change in occupancy from the previous established use, which was a religious facility, to accommodate a future residential project. The subject site located at 190 East Yates. The property is zoned RS2, which is low density residential, and also has a general plan land use designation of low density residential. So for planning, I'll be providing the comments. So just going back to the zoning does not allow a multifamily projects, in this case, a triplex. However, there is certain state laws that the applicant can pursue. For example, SB 9 projects in which you can have two primary units in a single family zone property. The applicant can utilize that to have two units on the property. In addition, there is also accessory dwelling unit laws that the applicant can apply for and could get another unit, maybe total 3 to 4 units on the property. But as far as having 3 units attached as a triplex, There is, it is something that, there's not currently a mechanism to allow that. So yeah, so the future development complying with our, RS2 zone district, meeting the minimum setbacks, covered parking for the units will be required. If you do move forward with 2 primary units, it will require 2-car covered parking for each unit. Meeting the minimum setbacks, if, for example, the interior sides meeting minimum 5, rear 5, interior side, front would be minimum 15, not exceeding lot coverage of 45%. Also, there is a comment here. Have you been able to, do you have the assessor's report of the property, which may be useful for the applicant if, when he proceeds with the building permit review?
Don't think so. I don't know if they were. Did you guys tell him when he came in?
Yes,
I believe so.
el reporte de la propiedad, el número de teléfono y el domicilio de Vaiselia que le había dado yo.
No tuvieron
No.
nada ellos. Fui a las dos partes y no tenían nada.
Deben de tenerlo.
Me
So
dijeron
it's
que
an
todo lo
accessory
tienen aquí.
report that needs to be requested by the
Es
accessory.
básicamente es el reporte de la propiedad donde identifica los permisos que fueron aprobados para la propiedad, para poder comparar lo que fue aprobado y lo que hay existente.
Creo que no tenía nada. Fui a de Vaiselia, de la corte, me mandaron a ahí mismo Vaiselia enfrente del parque.
The one
Pues,
over here.
Ya, eso sería el que está por el 198.
Fui a aquel primero y me dijeron que no tenía nada. Después de ahí me mandaron para ese otro y que tampoco tenía nada.
So I had called too, and they said it was in the city limits. They didn't have anything in the county. Very beginning.
So all,
Yeah, but the assessor's report is something
properties.
that the county has for all properties because the assessor is the one who determines the amount that the tax collector collects. And so they have it for the whole county, even in the cities.
For every
So
property.
fuiste
Yeah,
a
for
la
every
corte
property.
enfrente?
Sí.
Yeah, he went to the assessors where it's the courthouse and you go across the way, a little hallway. And they sent him to that one, is it RMA or? the
But
one?
did he ask for the assessor's report
Mhm.
at that location? Because that's
We send people
all the time. We get them all the time. So
Eso me dijeron que no tenía nada.
Cuando entras a la escuela.
Me llevé el papel, me dio ahí.
And
He-
here's
he-
the information again.
He put what you gave him.
Yeah, try it again.
by calling them and having them prepare it so that you just have to go and pick it up.
And we get them fast sometimes, so I think they'll email them.
Yeah, they
Okay,
can.
I'll call him again.
So yeah, that's basically our preliminary comments from planning related to the
And I'm sorry, can
application
you read, what is it called again?
Assessor's report.
property assessment.
And Oscar, I want to append that real quick. I know we just talked about this briefly before the meeting.
Yeah,
It is possible that this would qualify as a housing development project under
Yes.
the Accountability Act. So it may, we may actually be allowed to approve this under the builder's remedy,
yeah,
but we'll look at that between now and
okay,
when the letter is provided.
we'll do that. So we'll do a little bit more research and see if there's a mechanism to proceed. And then we'll provide that information in the letter that we'll be sending out to the applicant.
Okay, maybe say something? Can I say something?
Sure.
So I know when I called in to check the status, because I know when it was being sold, it was a church before.
Okay,
And they said they couldn't be used as a church, but maybe residential or up to, it could be, I said, kind of triplex, and they said maybe. Because when you walk in, it was already done. They had a kitchen, bedrooms, baths. And then it was divided into 3 per se. You walk in, you have your
Yeah.
main thing, and then this one. So the walls are there to make that triplex. It wouldn't be, they're not building anything new or tearing anything down.
Well, so the area on the right is what you're talking about when you walk in.
When you walk
Yeah,
in,
that was there, but again, the assessor's report will show us what it was, because who knows, that might have been built
okay.
without permits years ago.
And a key indicator is the fact that inside that back area, which was considered the kitchen,
Mhm.
the electrical panel and the meter, the service is there, and they don't put services inside houses, which is an indicator to us that at some point, somebody, whether that when it was in the county or whether it was in the city, converted that without permits. And so we need to know what the county considers that or allowed that building to be initially. That way we can determine moving forward what the options are.
Okay.
And what the requirements are gonna be.
And they're planning to update all the electrical and everything. too.
Yeah, we were there where they'd already started the construction
Okay.
without permits. We had to stop them.
Oh.
Because of the work that was being done.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, if you wanna continue.
Yeah,
With fire
so-
department.
If the project is a triplex, there's a requirement for what's called a 13R fire sprinkler system. If it does not go with a triplex, if it goes with a duplex or just a single family home, then it's a 13D system. So anything triplex and above is the 13R.
But no matter what, first,
Yeah,
since it's going to residential.
Fire sprinklers have to be
sprinklers are required.
So the project shall comply with the latest applicable codes. Fire hydrants placed based on distance no greater spacing than 500 feet for residential applications. Installed per the city standard, depending on the location of existing fire hydrants and required fire flow, additional hydrants may be required. All hydrant locations shall be approved by the fire department. Fire hydrants located across a public street shall not be utilized for calculations or considered as available to meet fire flow or FDC connection requirements for this project. No structure shall be greater than 400 feet from a fire hydrant. Project to meet the minimum fire flow requirements per the table in Appendix B of the most recently adopted edition of the California Fire Code. FDC required to be placed within 50 feet of a fire hydrant in an approved location. Where conditions permit, the FDC shall be located no closer than 40 feet from the building, with the NFPA 13R monitored fire sprinkler system required. Underground plans shall be submitted with above ground plans. And then fire extinguishers installed to comply with the fire code and address numbers and suite numbers posted on the building visible from the street, and the numbers have to contrast their background color. So, and you'll get copies of all of this, so. That's it for me. Are there any questions about that stuff or? Oh, okay.
Can you pull up, is there a fire hydrant around there or?
I didn't
So
see
they're
one.
gonna have to install one.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they do, well, you would pull a public works permit because the FDC, the fire department connection has to be within 50 feet of a functioning hydrant. And so to put that FDC on your property, you're gonna have to put a fire hydrant there.
Okay, even if they're city water, I mean, that's still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. So then that's required for all projects. Yeah, when I looked at them, there was one down the road across the street,
Mhm.
and then the other one was all the way down and around the corner, so
Okay. It has to be closer than how many feet?
50 feet.
50.
Yeah. Closer than 50 feet to the property, and then when they put the fire department connection, that fire department connection has to be within 50 feet of that hydrant.
Okay.
So,
You guys have a price range?
the last time I checked was about a year and a half ago, and the guy was telling me for a 2-lane road like that, if the water line is in the road, he was saying it was in the neighborhood of about $15,000.
15,000? And that's if it's a triplex, if it's a duplex?
If it's a duplex, then there may still be a hydrant requirement, but it wouldn't have to be as close, but it may still have to be installed. It would probably have to span the gap of the distance between those two that I found, because the maximum spacing is 500 feet.
Mm.
And so what we would do is we would try to figure out how far those are apart. And then if they're, just for example, if they're 1,000 feet apart, we would have you put one in the center of that,
Mm.
wherever that falls. But we will look at that when the time comes. It depends on what you're proposing,
Mhm.
what the final proposal is.
So when he says FDC, it's if you go around to some apartment complexes, you'll notice or low, say for example, you'll notice the thing out front that has the 2 red caps on it. So when the fire department shows up, they hook up to that.
And then hook up to the fire hydrant, and then we pump the pressure in, we pump water into the structure at higher pressure than the city water can provide.
And that's 3 or more units. If you have 2, units or less, you don't need that connection, but you still need fire sprinklers
and a fire hydrant.
And no matter what, you'll still need sprinklers inside the building. But you still, no matter what, have to have a fire hydrant, within 300,
Within 400 feet.
400 feet. It may seem like a lot, but the code looks at worst case scenario, fire and life safety.
So if it was commercial as a church and they didn't require it?
So commercial, back then it was county, the county island, we would have had no ability over that, no control over that, what they required.
I believe that area got annexed in 2015.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, so it was county before that, which we don't have any control, but now that it's in the city, this is the opportunity when things are changing occupancy, that we can come in and say, okay, you have to build it to the code of today, which is how infrastructure gets updated.
Is there any kind of, like the sewer, you can add it onto your tax roll, like maybe to. So you don't have to pay the whole thing now?
So I don't know, usually it's part of the construction project. As far as adding things or deferring payments for sewage and stuff like that, I don't know if this area falls into a program like that, but
Okay.
we don't have anything like that.
But we have a Javier that could possibly outline that information.
Okay.
Javier, trying to provide any comments related to that? They're asking you I believe this area was part of a sewer annexation project. And the question was if there's a way that they could maybe make payments or
You know, with
delay.
the sewer, you can, I think could be deferred to the tax roll.
Yeah, the sewer is being billed on the tax bill that twice a year. And then as far as other utility like water, it would just, if you need that, we don't have a program like that, but it'd be, what we do have is a, what is it, 3-year, I think we just modified that, but it's a 3-year loan. I can't remember what the interest is on it.
And that's just sewer. I mean, were you also referring to like the hydrant, right?
Yeah, if that could be,
Yeah, nothing on the hydrant.
okay.
You wanna go next? Or Javier, if you wanna finish off any other comments? Public improvements.
Yeah, the public improvements are just going to be determined by how much the valuation of the construction would be. Public improvements are triggered when it's over 28,000 and change. And if the work that you would do would exceed that, then we'd start looking at how much that would be and what can afford. Because what this area would require would be curb gutter and sidewalk. See, trying to see if there's all the electricals in the backyards. Street light would be dependent on taking a power to it. So it'll just depend on how much work would go into the conversion of this to a triplex. And obviously just connecting the water and sewer. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Javier. Next with building with James.
Yeah, like Clayton mentioned, we did stop them in the middle of a remodel. And obviously we haven't seen a set of plans, but just by looking at the plans itself, the ones in the middle, the unit in the middle, you have to have an egress window or door out of every bedroom.
That's the new one, I don't know, what's it, oh no. Let's see, get it doesn't.
So which one is in the middle?
I think I'm looking at it too.
Me too.
Oh, so you're calling it office? Yeah, and I know some of the trusses were rebuilt. Even if they were like for like, you can't ever touch a truss without it getting an engineer involved in it. So you'd want to get an engineer, any truss fix.
Okay.
Yeah, other than that, like Thane said, depends on the fire sprinkler system, depending on what would be allowed. All that would have to be submitted all at the same time. There's no deferred items when you're submitting plans.
Thank you, James.
Oscar, you said that they gotta have covered parking too?
Yeah, so since it was the last established use was a religious facility, and now you're wanting to convert it into a residential use. Yes, parking is something that we're gonna have to evaluate with the project, depending on how you proceed. If you are able to proceed with a multi-family project, it will require minimum one covered parking for each unit. In addition, depending how much bedrooms, it may require two parking per unit. So we'll provide that information in the PRC letter.
Yeah, because parking was the business front. I didn't know it had to be covered.
Yes, residential projects do require covered parking for each unit. If you move forward with two primary units, you're gonna need two covered parking per each unit. If it's a multi-family project, then it would just be one covered parking per unit with an additional stall. So still two per unit, but one would have to be covered and designated for that unit.
Cause you wouldn't build it, they wouldn't be able to build it on the
East
east side, right?
only have 28
So you can't do.
Yeah, and then you also are running into other codes. For example, you got lot coverage that we also have to evaluate. This
Front yard setback.
setbacks, so forth. So just an example, this zone district allows no more than 45% of lot coverage. However, our code does have a mechanism to request an extra 5% to our zoning administrator. But yeah, that is something that we'll be evaluating when you do submit for your building permits.
And then if they do covered parking up front, it would have to be, to keep those units from not being sprinklered, it'd have to be a 12-foot separation.
Yeah, and then the parking cannot be within the front yard setback. So that is something also that the applicant coordinating with an architect could be able to maneuver that.
Yeah, that's
So
gonna
what
be
would
tough.
be the best option then?
Well, that's up to that's up to the designer to know how the code reads and for them to fit
what's required.
what's required.
Based off the project.
Yeah, we don't design it. We just give you how it reads.
Yeah. Any other questions? Moving along, we still have Public Works. Any comments, Mike?
Sorry, I was muted. No comments this time.
Thank you. So yeah,
Residential cans, Mike, even if it's a triplex?
Yeah, triplex is good. It's once we get to 4 units is whenever it kicks it over to commercial.
Or more, correct.
So I mean, essentially, we'll go through all the details once service is applied for, backflow preventers, all those details, but that'll happen at the time of service. And refuse service would be cans per each individual unit, once everything gets processed through building and engineering.
Thank you. So yeah, as stated on previous projects, we'll compile each department's comments in a letter, and they'll be sent out to the applicant in about 2 weeks timeframe from today's meeting. Are there any questions at this time? No? Well, sounds good. Well, thank you for the application. That was our last item on today's agenda. I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm gonna go ahead and end today's PRC meeting at 2:32 p.m. Thank you.